Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Magic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and today we're going to be talking about Unlimited. Now, I know that I had said that I wanted to talk about Alpha or Beta, but, I'd like to talk about cards that you guys may be actually to afford, and I'm always trying to find ways to help my viewers save money and get some great decks. So, first thing I want to talk about before we get into the set itself is about the Power 9. Now, if you've been playing Arena, you more than likely have seen this card right up here. Now, this, of course, is an online exclusive card. And with this, you are able to conjure the Power of 9 to your deck. Now, imagine if this card was actually real. A real actual physical card. That'd be kind of neat, because it actually would give you about $25,000 worth of cards in your deck. But because of that, actually you're not able to have this as a real card. And I think that if you actually played with any of the Power 9, somebody would really be justified in smacking you, because that's about $30,000 worth of cards that you would be shuffling. So what are the Power 9? Well, the Power 9 comes from the first three sets, Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited. And these 9 cards are as follows: the Black Lotus, Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, the 5 boxes, and Time Twister. And we're going to be talking about those first. But before we get into the cards, please don't forget to look at the disclaimer you'll find down below. It helps us both out, and will save us a lot of headaches. And a little bit of background information about Unlimited itself. The set came out in December of 1993. There are 302 cards in the set. And the complete set itself is worth around $47,000. Yeah, kind of an expensive set. But this was actually more or less the first set, as Alpha and Beta had the same cards in it. And the way you tell this apart from Alpha and Beta is they had the white borders on the outside. So this is going to take a couple episodes to get this one done. So let's go ahead and get started. And we will begin with the Power 9.
So let's begin with Ancestral Recall. It is an instant. It casts for 1 blue. Target player draws 3 cards. And nothing really exciting. And there are lots of other cards that have this same effect. I couldn't find an actual price for one, but they are currently going for around $3,600 on eBay. Next up, we have Time Walk. I love that artwork on that. That is so awesome. And this is a sorcery. It casts for 1 colorless and 1 blue, and it's take an extra turn after this one. This card goes for a few thousand. I've seen it go up to 5,000. Now, are there any cards that do the same thing? Well, here's a couple that do, that are a heck of a lot cheaper. Okay, here is one. This is Temporal Manipulation. It does the same thing, but it costs a little bit more. It casts for 3 colorless and 2 blue. Depending on where you get it, from which set, from Portal Second Age, it's $49.12. But there are also some from Ultimate Masters. That's $17. So shop around and you may find this one for a pretty decent price. Even though it is a little expensive, it's a heck of a lot better than $5,000. And next up, we have the single most valuable card in the history of Magic, and that is the Black Lotus. It is an artifact that casts for 0, tap sacrifice, Black Lotus, add 3 mana of any one color. Yep. The Unlimited Edition currently is worth around $12,000. I don't even want to imagine what the Alpha and Beta are worth. But is there anything that is similar to the Black Lotus? Well, I found a couple, but here's the one I feel is the best recommendation. And that is the Lotus Blossom. This is about the cheapest one I could find that kind of does the same thing. Again, it's an artifact. It casts for 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a petal counter on Lotus Blossom. Tap, sacrifice Lotus Blossom, add X mana of any one color where X is the number of petal counters on Lotus Blossom. So you got to pay a little bit and save it up, but it's really worth it. And the best part, this card is not that expensive. You can get it from the Urza Saga expansion for $4.85. And next up we have Time Twister. This sorcery casts for 2 colorless and 1 blue. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. This card is a little less expensive than the last one. It's right around $2,000, and there are a couple cards that do the same thing for a lot less price. And that would be this card, Molten Psyche. Yeah, I know it's a red, but it is a sorcery that casts for 1 colorless and 2 red. Each player shuffles the cards from their hands into their library, then draws that many cards. Metalcraft. If you control 3 or more artifacts, Molten Psyche deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards that player has drawn this turn. Pretty cool little add-on there. And the best part, this card is not that expensive. You can get it from the Scars of Mirrodin expansion for $3.88. All right, now let's get into the Moxes. There are 5 of them representing the 5 colors of magic. And the first one is the Mox Emerald. It casts for 0 and tap, add 1 green mana. Pretty cool, huh? What's not cool is the price. The unlimited price is currently around $8,500. Next up we have the Mox Jet. This artifact also casts for 0 and tap, add 1 black mana. This card also is a little on the expensive side. It is currently worth around $3,599. And next up we have the Mox Pearl. It also casts for 0, tap, add 1 white mana. Nice. This card itself can go anywhere from around $3,000 to around $5,000. Next up we have the Mox Ruby. Beautiful. This artifact also casts for 0, tap, add 1 red mana. Yep. This card currently costs around $2,500. And finally, we have the Mox Sapphire. Also, it casts for 0 and tap and add 1 blue mana. This one also goes for right around $2,500. Okay, so what is a good, cheaper alternative to the Moxes? Well, I found out that it is a card that you probably have been playing with for quite a few years. And here it is, Birds of Paradise. It is a 0/1 creature that casts for 1 green. Tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. A much cheaper alternative to any of the Moxes. So, how much does this card usually run? Well, you can get it for right around $5, $7. It just depends on which expansion you want to get it from. Definitely a lot better alternative than having to refinance your house. So that wraps up all the Power 9. And again, you can get these cards if you play in Arena and you get this awesome card, Oracle of the Alpha. Yep. And I have this card, of course, in every blue deck that I play on Arena. So if you happen to be playing against me on Arena and I have a blue deck, watch out for this card. And if you can't get it yourself, like if you haven't been able to get it in any packs or anything, you can craft the card. So I look forward to seeing you in the Arena with this card. Alright, we got enough time, so let's do something a little different. Let's start with the artifacts and the lands before we call this episode to an end. And the first card is Basalt Monolith. It is an artifact that casts for 3. Basalt Monolith doesn't untap during your untap step. Tap, add 3 colorless, tap 3 to untap Basalt Monolith. Pretty cool if you're playing an artifact deck. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will currently cost you around $21, and it has been reprinted several times. Next up we have Black Vice. It casts for 1. As Black Vice enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. At the beginning of the chosen player's upkeep, Black Vice deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of cards in their hand minus 4. And this card is still around today, as I have it in a couple decks on Arena. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you $21, and it has been reprinted several times. Next up, we have Crystal Rod. This is a card that you may want to think about putting in your blue decks, if you can swing it. It casts for 1. Whenever a player casts a blue spell, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life. This card is not too expensive. It will cost you right around $3, and it also has been reprinted several times. Next up, we have the Dingus Egg. My best friend loves to play this card in his land destruction deck, which is a rotten thing to do. It casts for 4. Whenever a land is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, Dingus Egg deals 2 damage to that land's controller. Ugh. If you'd like to add this card to your land destruction deck, it won't cost you too much. It's right around $15, and it has been reprinted several times. Next up, we have Glasses of Urza. You know who that guy is. And it casts for 1 colorless. I should not say that because it's an artifact and they always cast for colorless. Anyway, so tap, look at target player's hand. When my friends play this card against me, I show them my actual hand and I show them certain bumps and creases and all kinds of stuff. It was funny the first couple thousand times. Anyway, if you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you right around $8 and it has been reprinted quite a few times. Do you ever find that you have a hard time getting that particular card that you really, really want? Well, this card will be your saving grace. That is Howling Mind. Now, how this card works is it casts for 2. At the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mind is untapped, that player draws an additional card. Now, this version is very expensive. It's $300, but it's been reprinted several times, and it is still active on Arena today. So, my advice, get one in every deck you have. Next is another card a friend of mine just really, really loves to play, and that is the Icy Manipulator. It casts for 4, and tap 1, tap it, tap target artifact, creature, or land. Yeah, a mean thing to do, a rotten thing to do. However, this card on this set is kind of expensive. It's $156, but it's been reprinted several times. The Ice Age version is only 84 cents, so if you plan on adding this to your collection, I'd go with the Ice Age version. Next up, we have Iron Star. It casts for 1. Whenever a player casts a red spell, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life. This is really a fun card, like the others that are similar that we'll talk about, especially if you play against people who you know that they play certain colors. If you'd like to add this card to your collection, it will cost you $3, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. And next up, we have Ivory Cup. Now, it does the same thing, except for white spells. Another cool thing to have in your deck. And this also is worth $3, and it has been reprinted a few times. Next up, we have a card for those of you that have Creature Love. And don't tell me that you're not out there, because I've seen you on Arena, and I've played with some of you. This card casts for 4, tap 1. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to target creature this turn, that source deals that damage to you instead. So if you have Creature Love, or if you have a really big creature that you just don't want to lose, you might want to add this to your deck. This card's a little on the expensive side. It's $43, but it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have Jade Statue. I love the artwork on this one. It casts for 4. Tap 2. Jade Statue becomes a 3/6 golem artifact creature until end of combat. Activate only during combat. Nice. If you like to get this card, it will cost you right around $16, and it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have Juggernaut. Yep, I love this card. It casts for 4. Juggernaut attacks each combat if able. Juggernaut can't be blocked by walls, and it is a 5/3 creature. Yep. If you'd like to add this card to your deck, it will cost you a little bit. It's right around $17, but it has been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have a card that really would work well in a black deck, and that is Cormus Bell. It casts for 4. All swamps are 1/1 black creatures that are still lands. Yeah. This card's a little on the expensive side. It's right around $37, but it has been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have Library of Lang. It casts for 1. You have no maximum hand size. If an effect causes you to discard a card, discard it. But you may put it on top of your library instead of into your graveyard. This is really good to play with white and blue, as they do have some cards that really reward you for having a lot of cards in your hands. This card's a little on the expensive side, as it's currently about $18, but it's been reprinted a couple times. Next up, we have Neville's Disc. Now, again, you can kind of tell somebody that's been playing for a while by some of the cards that they play. And this is definitely a card that is in several decks that me and several of my friends play with. This is another one of those fun cards that is called a board clearer. It casts for 4. Nevinral's disc enters the battlefield tap. Tap 1, tap it, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Basically everything but lands. Really a fun card. The Unlimited Edition's kind of expensive. It's about $234, but it's been reprinted several times. Next up we have Soulnet. This artifact casts for 1. Whenever a creature dies, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life. This would really work in a deck with Sutured Ghoul or Frankenstein's Monster, where your goal is to kill as many of your own creatures as possible. This card's not expensive at all. It's currently worth around $2.28, and it has been reprinted quite a few times. And next up we have Sunglasses of Urza. So we saw his glasses, here are his sunglasses. This casts for 3. You may spend white mana as though it were red mana. Pretty cool if you're playing a white and red deck, which is a cool combination. I have a couple that I play on Arena and in real life. This particular version's kind of expensive. It's right around $100, but the reprinted versions are actually quite a bit cheaper. And our next card is Throne of Bone. Yep, this is a black card. It's one similar to the ones we just discussed, except for it's for black. So for 1, whenever a player casts a black spell, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life. And like the others, it's right around $3, and it's been reprinted quite a few times. And our final artifact for today is Wooden Sphere. And it does what the others do, except for green. Now, also right around $3. So you could get one of each of these for right around $3 if you wanted to get the limited versions. The reissues are quite a bit cheaper though, but just putting it out there. And before we call it a day, I'd like to last talk about the dual lands. Now, these beautiful cards were the first time that you could have a land that would produce more than one type of mana, whether it was red and white, green and black. There is a card for every single combination. Now, of course, the dual lands are still around today, as many of us on Arena and that have been playing more recent sets still use the dual lands. The thing is that these dual lands didn't have a price to pay. Like nowadays, when you get a dual land, you either got to pay a life, they come into play tapped, or something like that. But back in the day, the dual lands just came out and would be played just like any other land. However, they're quite expensive, and I do mean quite expensive. They go hundreds of dollars. I actually was playing with a plateau, the one that I put up here first, for quite a few years, because when I bought it, it was only right around $30-40. Now it's worth right around $350. So you live and learn. But I thought I would discuss these original dual lands, let you know where they came from in case you had never seen them before. Well, Planeswalkers, that brings this episode of Magic Gamer 74 to a close. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, let me know by giving me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. And don't forget to click that little bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload any new material. In our next episode, we're going to keep discussing Unlimited. So we're going to take us a little while to do this because there are some great cards in this set. It's a big set anyway, but... So until next time, I will see all of you in the arena. Take care. Bye.